All right, I'm here with my boy Paisios Wainwright. I go to church with him at St. Michael's Orthodox Church in Beaumont, Texas, established in 1886. Can you believe it? In the little bitty town of Beaumont, of all places. So, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
All is well, thank God. Coming off of Pascha and Bright Week, things are good, but they're also things have turned up spiritually as well.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I have been off since last Friday, so I am still celebrating Bright Week. So, my Bright Week lasts
Indeed.
until I go to work tomorrow morning.
Nice.
So, So, yeah, I don't have anywhere to be today. I'm going to sit at home and I'm going to do some yard work. If it doesn't rain, it was been kind of on and off all morning. So I might get out
Same
there
here,
and
dude.
I
But
was trimming trees and stuff yesterday, but
it's been great weather for this time of year, I'll tell you that. I've
hmm,
been able to get a lot done, thank God, because, dude, me and the heat, for someone who's lived here my entire life, it's only like gotten worse as I've gotten older, it seems. I just have a tendency to fall out quickly when it's really hot.
yeah,
So anytime that we get like an extended little, I guess, spring, I'm very thankful.
yeah. I went to lunch with John and his wife um Sunday,
Mhm.
and he was talking about how the humidity bothers him. Like he likes dry heat, and I'm like, dude, I can't stand dry heat. I'd rather be sweating. Like, give me the humidity any day of the week. I guess because I grew up in it and I was always
Yeah.
here. I was in Lake Charles or Houston or here. I remember when I was in basic training in Fort Benning, and they were like, this is the town that invented humidity, and I was like, well, if y'all invented humidity, Houston perfected it, so it didn't bother me one bit.
Absolutely. That concrete jungle, man. That
Yeah.
plus the humidity, it's a free sauna every day.
Right. Yes. Yes. It's terrible when you work outside, and that's why I was a sandblaster when I first got out of high school, and so I was going to basic training was actually a break from sandblasting.
Camis, they have holes in the sleeves where that suit that you usually have to wear when you're sandblasting doesn't, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we didn't wear a suit. They just gave me one of our welders brought one of his denim shirts that was like a triple XL. It looked like a dress on me, man, because at the time I was, I'm like, what, 5'10", 5'11", and I was like 130 pounds when I got out of high school. And so it looked like a huge, like a moo.
Yeah. That's
But
before
yeah,
OSHA.
yes, yes, I was 17. Yeah, there was definitely no OSHA. I was driving forklifts, grinding, sandblasting. I was all up in that industrial crap. There was no
Absolutely.
OSHA was nowhere to be seen. But so introduce yourself for the audience. They don't know who you are as like I do, but so introduce yourself, and we'll get into why I have you here because I think your story is quite remarkable. I think it's a really beautiful story, and it's something that we should really talk about. We should really be talking to people like you more often.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. My name's Troy Wainwright. Paisios is what I go by. It's the name that the church has given me. But I was born and raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and pretty typical, I'd say, Southern upbringing. I got the belt. Went to church every Sunday. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir. The standards, I guess you'd say, for the South. Um, I wasn't into academia growing up at all. I was a sports guy, played sports from the age of 5 until uh, I left college, and basically went to public school my whole life, and was a Catholic kid growing up in a public school, which for people that don't know, Lake Charles, Louisiana is like it's I would say it's like 80, 90% Catholic. you can find a Catholic church just about within a 2 to 3 mile radius of any other Catholic church. So, and then with that, there's also a heavy influence of like Baptist. Um, when I was growing up, there wasn't so much non-denominational church, so many. There are a bunch now, but it was more Baptist, kind of that was the other side, or Methodist. So, I guess I say that to say growing up, I was always, I knew that I was Catholic, but I couldn't understand what other people were. I thought
Mm.
everybody was Catholic. They just went to a different church with a different name. Um, so growing up, I was pretty good kid. When I got into middle school was rough. I think middle school is rough for everybody. It's just a weird time to be a human being.
Mm.
And it was where I got introduced to a lot of um, other personalities, different personalities. Then high school, just really played sports and partied, honestly. That was the only two things I truly cared about. Just play some ball on Friday night and then figure out where the party was. And I tell people it's interesting because, I was obviously doing things that were illegal, but there's a sense of kind of like innocence in it as well. We weren't out for evil reasons. We were just trying to have fun, and that's the only thing that we knew
Mm.
uh,
There's not
what
a
to
whole lot
do,
to do down there.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Go
Go to Holly
hunting.
Beach and drink beer.
Yep. And so we did. We partook. We had a good time, and thank God, my grandmother used to say, God looks after babies and drunkards and or fools. And so I felt I was protected many times by our Lord, like in really bad moments, where it wasn't we put ourselves there, but just by the nature of being around other people who are partaking.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, I fled a lot of situations that I should not have fled from or been safe from. But moving on, got a scholarship to play football. Had a couple different ones. Ended up going to Tulane University, which was the worst decision I could have made as someone who is not
The,
interested in
the ghetto
academia at all.
LSU.
It's like, oh man, I could have picked any other school really, but for some reason I just thought like, okay, this school it's cool, it's different. There's like a big liberal arts community kind of thing, and at that time I was during that transition because I had no mentors really in my life. I strayed significantly from the church from when I went from high school to college. I pretty much quit going because I had no one to just even tell me like, hey, it's Sunday, you should get up and go to church, dude. Um, so that happened, and because I had no real mentors, all I did was go to football practice and workouts. And this was 2008, so not, Miami University in the 80s where it's just if you are a good football player, we'll get the grades figured out.
Mm.
I failed like miserably. I got so far behind, and I kind of had to sit down with my head coach, and he was just like, "Look, dude, you have to go to class. Like you have to do this." And so, and I wasn't willing at the time. I didn't have the motivation or again, anybody pushing me. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm good, bro. I'm gonna go be a Marine. Great idea. And so, left Tulane, left the full ride and, called my recruiter, the night that I had the conversation with my head coach and said, hey, get me on a bus to Paris Island as soon as possible. I'm ready to go. So came home, and my mom was not very happy about that decision, obviously. Long story short, went to the Marine Corps, and graduated boot camp at Paris Island, went to SOI, which is the School of Infantry, and I got hurt pretty bad there. Tore everything in my shoulder, had to have surgery. Had surgery with Navy medicine, and basically I got out of surgery and was told in my first physical therapy appointment that the surgery didn't go as planned and that they would have to go back in and uh, kind of clean up where they didn't previously.
Mm,
And I was not super stoked to hear that. So I just said, look, guys, I want to get my discharge package ready because I can't have my job back and y'all are wanting to operate on me again. And so at that point, I was put into a rehabilitation platoon. That's what they call them. And that's kind of where my story really takes a turn. When I was in this rehabilitation platoon, um, it's other Marines that are hurt. And if anybody doesn't really, or no, Marines that are listening or aren't listening, they know that that place it's kind of swept under the rug and looked down upon. There's kind of like a cloud over that place. Because when you're a Marine and you're not able to perform your duties, you're looked at just broken. You're like a broken toy, broken machine, and it's like they want you to get better, but until you get better, you're going to be treated harshly, I guess. And the people that were over us were also NCOs. My sergeants and staff sergeants were like very broken men, very traumatized men, men who had been in the initial push in Fallujah and things like that. So they were dealing with their own problems, trying to deal with other Marines who had problems as well.
mm,
And so a ton of hazing went on there. They would just play a lot of games with us, wake us up in the middle of the night, mess with us, turn the AC on in the winter, turn the heater on in the summer. Um, just make us skip meals, just different things. What really got me was I was put on, they call it suicide watch. And so I was in charge of Marines who were considered suicidal or had um, really mental conditions, or they were coming back from basically the mental hospital.
mm-hmm,
And I would be put on watch, 48 hours at a time usually. And unfortunately, on some of these watches, it wouldn't be these Marines, but other Marines would attempt to take their lives. And so, having to witness that or having to witness the after of that, it was a lot for me at the time. And then some of the Marines that I would watch would threaten me. They could see when I was tired, and they would tell me, like, if you go to sleep, just wait till you're going to fall asleep. And they would taunt me and things like that. So all of that at the time, it doesn't bother you in the moment when you're going through it. It's just kind of you try to make light of it, really. But after I got discharged from the Marine Corps, I ended up going to college again for religious studies because I had at that point I was like, okay, I think God's real, but I just cannot fathom any sort of I can't come up with anything about him that would make sense for everything that's going on. Um, I don't know who God is or who has the right idea of him. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school for religious studies and try and figure out who's correct, so to speak, I guess. And ended up doing that. And during my the finals of my first semester there, I had to get rushed to the hospital. For what was a panic attack. I had no idea what was going on. It was just couldn't feel like my extremities and nauseous, dizzy, throwing up, dry heaving, and I was just like, so I know something's not right, and went to the hospital and found out that. And all during this time, I'm really learning about the Eastern religions like Buddhism and Hinduism and things like that. And they would bring some sort of peace to me whenever I would was able to do the practices and things like that. But fast forward again to the anxiety attack, I leave school and come back home and try to just start a life working.
Hmm.
And it was just very difficult for me. I was having a lot of episodes of like bipolar. I would be fine and then swing. I'd have these big swings. And so all during this, I'm searching, trying to figure out what this truth is. Where can I find peace? I'm tired of living in just turmoil all the time. And so ended up learning more about Buddhism, read a bunch of books, um, did the practices, the meditations, and, visited with a lot of monks. And that led me to go, I wanted to travel America and meet new people. And so I ended up in Colorado, of course, and lived with, or I rented a little cabin from this woman who has a crazy, amazing story of her own. But she was a blind lawyer and she had a connection with Native American tribes in the area. And so I ended up living and practicing with these Lakota Indians, learning about their spirituality, doing sweat lodges and all these things. And they would bring me, like I said, they would bring peace. I'd have moments of refreshment, but then it would always come back to something else. Like I
Was it
need
like,
more.
was that like euphoric, like euphoria type?
I would say looking back, it was. It was just I think it was a lot of flooding of emotions, and in the secular world it was like a release,
Mm.
this idea that I'm getting rid of something or it's leaving me in this Gnostic way, um,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds
versus
very Gnostic. Yeah.
versus dealing with this problem or confronting it. It was always this, oh gosh, okay, this specific thing, okay, I feel some release from it. And that gives you enough to want to keep indulging of like, oh, okay, there might be something to this. And I went up to Colorado with a Marine buddy of mine, and he ended up leaving me. I ended up shattering my collarbone while I was there, trying to be a longboarder,
Mm.
uh, encompassing the whole, you know, thing.
Yeah.
And so had surgery. I've got a huge plate in my collarbone, and it kind of all crashed there. That was it financially, hit me very hard. And so I moved back home. And coming back home, I brought all that stuff with me and was doing a ton of journaling, still trying to find something. So then I tried to work again, couldn't find any work, or I couldn't keep work, should I say. The work was fine, it's me. But so I resorted to hanging out with a old friend of mine, and good guy, I love him to death. Well, we're still connected to this day, but we both just chose the wrong path, and I started selling drugs, just hustling the streets, doing that whole thing, and all the while trying to cultivate some sort of spiritual life, which is like, I mean, it's impossible, it's pointless, and then just justifying all these things in a spiritual way and coercing myself in different directions. And so that all ended one evening. Again, God's providence, whatever, or however you want to phrase it. A friend of mine, or my buddy, we got a call on our phone, our little burner phone, and it was this guy who would normally place small orders, very small orders with us. And he had placed a very big order, and it was out of nowhere kind of. And this because this was a guy that w would want, uh how can I say, I don't want to trigger people. Like he would want things fronted sometimes. And so it was be weird for him to say, okay, I want this much and I have the money and all this stuff. So it kind of raised a red flag. Well, he had called back and we had missed the call and it left a voicemail, which we thought was odd. And we listened to the voicemail and it was him in a car with cops, basically telling them where we were and what we were doing and setting us up essentially.
Mm.
And he didn't turn his phone off, and so it caught it. So after that night, I was very like that hit me hard. I was like, man, like how like what are the odds of this happening? That we catch this on our voicemail. And so the next night we go out to party at this bar, and it was I was on drugs. And the guy that it did it, I saw him at the bar. We ran into each other randomly.
Cowboys?
OBs.
OBs, okay.
Yeah. And
We used to
so,
always hang out at Cowboys. We had a lot of
oh,
fun there.
I've had my fair share of times there as well.
My uncle was a regular at Wings back in the day.
Thanks.
It's
That was a little bit
yeah,
before me.
it's not open anymore.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
old. It was old biker
yesterdays
bar.
and Cowboys. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Uh, and so I see this dude make eye contact with him, and he doesn't know that I know. And he just shakes my hand and like hugs me like like nothing. And for some reason that sent like it just sent a cold shiver down my spine of like, wow, man, like
You
this dude
betray me
was
with a
ratting
kiss,
me
Judas.
out. Yeah, and I was like, this is I don't want to be a part of this.
Mm,
Like it's just too much for me. And I remember leaving the bar and just I was like in such a like frazzled state that it made me sick. I started
hmm
puking and stuff. I was overwhelmed. And so I went home and kind of spent some time apart from that friend of mine. And maybe a month or two later, we came back together and he said, it's all right, like we're done with this. And he actually straightened out his life. And now he's a father, good guy, good hardworking man now, is a believer and all these things. But it was just weird how we separated, came back, and I kind of was a catalyst for the beginning of his jump. I would bring him to all of his trainings in Lafayette and things like that. But besides the point, after that, I really was like, okay, I've got to get deeper into this spiritual stuff, and ended up becoming a Hare Krishna. Um, uh, did that for like a year and some change, and uh, I I enjoyed it because it was a little more personal than Buddhism was, but still it was very strange because their whole thing is Krishna and this like this little blue man, and it was always just very strange for me.
mm.
But I felt like I'm like, okay, like each time I feel like I'm getting closer to something. And so I looked into Islam right before I started looking back into Christianity. And the reason why I looked into Islam was because of their discipline. Um, I was like, there's something about this that makes sense to me. So I was like, whatever, got into this, felt culturally off, obviously. I went and met with a teacher from McNeese who was a Muslim scholar and one of the head guys from the mosque here, and I had lunch with him. And it just felt it felt strange in one way because the teacher was super nice and welcoming. The other guy seemed like he was just ready to kill me at any moment. Like he just seemed so upset that I was there. So that I was like, okay, this is culturally, this is just not where I belong. I'm a white dude from Southwest Louisiana. Even if Islam is true, it's just too far off for me to jive with. And I was like, I'm just gonna read the Bible again. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna read the Bible for myself and see what it says. So I read the Bible and I get to where, Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and life. And like, well, none of these other people have ever said that. And I've never read this in any text,
Hmm.
spiritual text. I was like, there's something to this, and kept reading and started learning about the Jesus prayer randomly because I was, into mantras already. I would say mantras, and I
Mm.
found I was like, well, is there a Christian mantra, a Christian prayer? And found out about the Jesus prayer. And so every morning I was waking up early, sitting and just
Mm.
saying the Jesus prayer, meditating, saying the Jesus prayer. And I would earnestly, ask God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. I want to know who you are. I want to know this is true, and I want to follow something. I'm lost. And one morning I was doing my normal thing, nothing out of the ordinary, and I'm saying the Jesus prayer, and I get to this point of like extreme frustration because I feel like I'm just like, man, what am I doing? Like what am I after? And again, I was like, I said it out loud, God, if you're real, show me. Like I want to know who you are. I want to know who you are so I can worship you accordingly. And it was like, it was a supernatural experience for me. Like I'm in a pitch black room and it just felt like the room flooded with light, and I just bowed my head and I was very emotional. Like it ripped me apart because I
Mm.
felt like it was Christ saying, like it's me. I am the one. And so I just sat there and I poured out snot and the whole 9 yards. And I got up from that and I was like, wow, that was intense. It was palpable. It was felt real. I've never had anything like that happen, but I was weary still. And so I continued to read scripture and got involved with this non-denominational church in Lake Charles, and they do great things for our homeless population. Um, but they also do the gay marriage and all these other things. And so
Mm.
I was like, man, I can't reason with this. And I even messaged the pastor, but he had he sent me a note loaded with refutations to why it's okay to be gay and how the Bible is what it's saying and that it's not actually saying this. And I read it, and of course you can make anything make sense. And I was like, oh, he might be onto something. I don't know, because I'm kind of in this love is love mode at this point. I'm listening to like Rob Bell and stuff, which is if you know who that is or anybody, it's crazy, but like hell's not real type thing and all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
I don't
Um,
know the guy, but I know the type.
yeah, Richard Rohr, Christ consciousness, this whole deal.
Mm. Oprah.
Yeah, 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 dude. And so I'm like, this is, I don't know. I just felt like it was off. Like I felt we were doing good things, helping people, but we're also like lying as well. So what are we actually doing here? And I only knew of like Catholicism, non-denominationalism, and then the guy on the street corner that's telling you you're going to burn in hell. That's like those are my only references for Christianity at the time. And so after that, I kind of started dabbling with Baptist churches and Calvinism and then Lutheran church, and I bounced around all over the place for a while. During this, I met my wife through pottery, which I failed to mention. I do pottery for a living. I have my own business with my wife, but through this, I met her, and she is in her own church doing her own thing. It's a kind of a charismatic church. She ends up going on a mission trip to Norway and Turkey for 6 months with YWAM. It's Youth with a Mission. It's kind of like a, I guess, non-denominational, evangelical youth mission program. They just try and set up these satellite locations and or build, uh, I guess, make disciples. Um, and she did that, and in that she had questions. I started having a lot of questions, and at this time I learned about Orthodoxy. And she's hearing these things at this place, which, she's just surrounded by it 24/7. And I'm learning about Orthodoxy on my own, and we're sharing what we're learning through this time. And
How did you stumble into Orthodoxy?
so, a meme, quite frankly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was on the internet, and I guess, just the algorithm from me looking. I had looked one day like what was the first church of Christianity on Google, and I didn't give it much thought because Orthodoxy and Catholicism both came up. I was like, okay, whatever. But then I saw this meme of St. Paisios, and not like a make fun meme, but just it was him and a quote, and I was like, who? What is this? Like, who is this man in all black with this legendary beard, looking just like a wizard? With all the answers to, every question I may have. And I looked into further into it, and that's the first exposure I had to Orthodoxy was just basically reading quotes by St. Paisios. And then from there, you know, I probably put it in YouTube and watched a harmony video or a patristic nectar video or something
Mm,
like that. Um, and then basically where I truly dove into it was when I was learning about prayer and prostrations. Some video came up about where they come from, and for some reason that really it captivated me. The humility in it and just the, I guess, using your body as a tool to worship God and also fight your passions.
mm,
Um, and then from there, it was like, it was me trying to drink out of a fire hydrant, basically. I
yeah.
was trying to consume everything, and I would go through phases where it was too much, and I would turn hateful because I had no one to direct me,
Hmm.
and I would just come up with legalistic things in Orthodoxy that aren't real, and it would frustrate me, and I would argue with myself and back and forth, and my wife's telling me these things about, what's going on in her life. And so when she got back, we both, is when we told each other, we're in a relationship. We're going to take this seriously. And we're going to try and figure out, you know, where we want to go to church and start our life and move forward. And during this time, we went to Reformed Baptist churches for a little bit. Then we went to the Lutheran church, and we kind of would go to Orthodox services here and there every now and then. My uncle was Orthodox.
And were y'all going to St. John the Divine, or were y'all coming up to Beaumont at that time?
So my first ever liturgy was at St. Michael, and that was
Okay.
it was alone while she was overseas. And I went there, talked poor Michael Ed's head clean off about everything that he did not want to talk about. If you can just imagine your normal, excited young man of Orthodoxy, and
Yeah.
just absolute prideful goofball, to be quite
Mm,
frank. But he was sweet and was kind and didn't judge me and was just amazing and led me into the church and sat me down and told me everything I needed to know. And Father Michael came up to me and said a few words. And then after that, we went to St. John for a little bit, on and off, because it was when my uncle was still alive. And he was a faithful. He's one of the pillars of the church here. Um, and we would have long conversations. My wife is very intelligent and very well read in the Bible. She was one of the few that, she took it very seriously. And we would have our discussions about, well, it says this, but we do this and why. But she's also very humble. She's okay with being wrong. And I'd like to think I am for the most part, but I'm not. However, her humility inspires me, and her willingness to bend sometimes when she didn't want to allowed me to also bend sometimes when I didn't want to. And we got to the point where we didn't go to church for like 2 or 3 months because we were in such derision, I guess. And we were finally hit this point of like, okay, like, what are we going to do? We know this about Orthodoxy and we're really learning a lot. And we just know the other stuff isn't true. Like, it's just feel good. It makes us feel good. That's it.
Mm.
And we know that that'll end eventually. So we went to a church in Sulphur, Louisiana, one last time, this non-denominational church, because a lot of her friends attend there. And we had come down to like community was one of the big things for us. Well, in the middle of this gentleman's sermon, we walked up and left. We just got out because it was insane. He basically said that Christ's resurrection was like the Super Bowl, like or catching a touchdown pass at the Super Bowl. And he went on to say much more absolutely wild and crazy things, like the only reason why Christ came to earth was to heal us of our maladies, our infirmities, physical. It's just it was wild. So we left and we were
Has he
like,
never read
okay.
the book of Mark?
I don't think he's ever read any book. I think he
Like,
chooses a lot of things that he likes and then wraps a sermon around that thing.
I remember the first time I ever talked to Father Turbo, and I'm not going to get into the details of this today, but like why I ended up on the phone with him for 3 hours at 1 o'clock in the morning. But uh, we ended up on the phone, and he just told me, he goes, "Look, you need to pray," and he told me to pray the Jesus prayer, and then he said, um, "You need to read the book of Mark." And he goes, when you realize that God was on earth to heal people and cast out demons, then we need to start talking every 2 weeks. And I read the book of Mark. I had some other things, spiritual things happen, and I disappeared for 6 months. So, we all have our own, and I came crawling back, texting him, "I'm so sorry, Father." I blah blah, like, and that's whenever I started going to St. Michael's regularly, and it was shortly after that Father Michael was like, "Okay, you're gonna get in the inquiry class," and I was like, "Okay," you know. So yeah, it was just kind of one of these things that I had to be kind of just told what to do.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know about you. You were talking about this feeling of peace whenever you were interacting with the Native American tribes, or when you were in the Buddhism and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That was one thing that I never had. I didn't mess around with other religions. I was raised Southern Baptist. Granny was, I think she was Presbyterian. Isn't that a big Presbyterian church there in Lake Charles?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the church she went to,
Okay.
and it's like got like purple stained glass windows and stuff. Real
Yep.
beautiful, like Episcopal style church.
Hmm.
That's where she went to church, I believe, and she went there like her entire life. I mean, she was died in that church basically. But so, but other than that, I wasn't exposed to any other. denomination. I went to Moss Bluff Bible Church. I went to my grandpa's church. I can never remember the name of the church, but it's over off of Sutherland Road. It's a Baptist church on Sutherland Road there in Moss Bluff. Um, that's where it's down the road. It's just like a few miles down from Sam Houston Jones State Park. So if you go down and it tees off on Sutherland, if you take a left,
Right.
you go to the park. If you take a right, it goes down to the church, and then there's the power lines that go over Sutherland.
Yep.
That house on the left hand side was my grandparents' house ever since I can remember, since I was like probably 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. And when my grandma died a few years ago, they sold the house, but in the property, but they had like 5 acres in that house, and they were there for ever. We used to go. We used to go before there were houses there on the right hand side. We'd go hunting in the woods right off of uh the creek that runs off of Coffee Road.
Yep.
We'd go squirrel hunting down in there. We went shooting guns down in there. It was just that's where we hung out at. My uncle would always take me down there. So
Now there's $1 million homes on it.
yes, there's huge houses down there. A lot of my family still lives down in Moss Bluff area. Um, but yeah, Topsy and Moss Bluff and
Yep.
all through there. We country with a K.
Good people. Good people. Good people.
Yeah, we country with a K.
It's the best
But
kind, dude.
yeah, it is. But yeah, and so but I grew up like going to Moss Bluff Bible Church. And then when I was in Houston, I was going to like Central Baptist Church and different Baptist churches there because the
Mhm.
Southern Baptist compared to the Bible Church, basically the same. They were basically the
Okay.
the same denomination. It was just the Moss Bluff Bible Church called itself a non-denominational Bible church, but the Southern
Yeah.
Baptists pretty much do that same thing nowadays.
Yep.
So there's not much difference in the teachings. Um, but what really turned me off is when I was going through my second divorce. Um, my first wife left me when I was in the military.
Hmm.
I had gone to basic training. She was pregnant with our third child. I'd gone to basic training. I was 21, and so I was at Fort Bragg. So you can imagine the kind of parties we were having, and she did not like it, and she thought I was messing around on her. So she ended up messing around on me with one of her friends from high school, and they're still married to this day. And so she ended up divorcing me, and I got a early discharge, honorable discharge, because of financial problems that she had let occur. And they were like, "Well, we're deploying to Afghanistan. You can't deploy, so you can either sit here with the with the sick and the injured and wait for us to come back in 13 months, or you can get discharged." And I was like, "Just get me out of here. Like, I don't want to just sit
Yeah, dude.
around. I don't want to
Exactly.
just sit around Fort Bragg and hang out at House of Dolls." So, uh, so I ended up coming back and meeting. I had known my second wife from high school. She was my best friend's sister's best friend. So we knew each other through that, and we got together, and that was a disaster of a marriage. That was just a disaster. Like the only thing like that we had in common is we liked to party, and that was
Uh,
it. And
yeah.
then she got pregnant, and it was like her dad. They were Catholic, so her dad's like, "You are getting married," and it was like, "Okay." And that was that.
Yep.
And then we were married for like 8 years, 10 years, 8 years, something like that. And it was terrible. It was one of the worst parts of my life. So saying all this was to say that whenever I was in the church and we were going through these struggles, I was going through these struggles with my first wife and my second wife. My entire prayer was just like, Lord, just heal my marriage. Like, give me the wisdom and strength to figure out what to do with my marriage. Because the way I looked at it is, I made a commitment. I have children. I don't want this to end. I want to figure this out.
Mhm.
No matter how bad it's been up to this point, I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm trying to, move forward in this way. And when both wives told me this, when they wanted to split, was, well, I prayed about it and God told me to divorce you. And that sent me on a trajectory where I drove over the road for, I left. Because I was already driving truck, so I was just like, screw it. I can't afford rent and child support and all this stuff. So I'm going to go over the road. And I would go and I would spend 3 months in my truck and then come home for a week, spend that with my kids, go back for 3 months, and I'd be gone like that all the time.
Mhm.
Well, the first 3 months I spent over the road, I just spent in silence. And so I was like, do I believe in God? And that was my whole thought. And then I was just like, well, you know what? I've never experienced God. If there is a God, he's not listening to my prayers. He doesn't care what I have to say. So, no, I don't even if there is a God, he doesn't care about me, so why should I care about him? So I went down this whole agnostic route. And so I never dabbled in these other things. So I sat for 13 years agnostic and plus the prior years being Southern Baptist non-denominational, and I was sitting within my own darkness within, and I would sulk in it. I would just be, it would bathe me. I was like, that's what gives me strength, and I was
Yeah,
writing all this real dark poetry and short stories. I go back and read some of my old short stories, dude. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell was I writing? Like, that's disgusting. Like,
yeah.
like, what was I doing? And, I remember having this conversation with Father Turbo, and I asked him, I was like, look, I was like, obviously, I was dabbling in the spiritual world in this way unknowingly,
Mhm.
unwittingly, because to the Baptist mind, it's very rational and it's very materialistic. So there wasn't a whole lot of talk about your spiritual life. I mean, they would say, "Oh, put on the armor of God, make sure you pray," blah blah. But it was never like with purpose. There was never any purpose to it. It was just kind of like, yeah. And it was like I never prayed because I was like, I don't even know what to say.
Right.
Like, what am I supposed to, what? What am I? Oh, just ask God for things. Thank Him for being God. Thank Him for your life and your wife and your children. And I'm like, have you met my wife and my children? Like, this is terrible, you know? And, so it was like finding the Orthodox Church. I found it in the exact way I should have because, I'm in this podcast space and, I have a lot of friends that are podcasters. And one of my friends interviewed another guy who used to be a podcaster who had moved to Saipan right around the time COVID hit. He had taken off and moved to Saipan, which is an American territory, so he didn't have to get like
Mhm.
different type of national, whatever, citizenship. And he's interviewing him, and he's like, "Yeah, just Russian priest just appeared like on the island and started talking to my wife," and it was kind of like, "Wait, what?" And then he starts talking about meeting Father Turbo, and they told him like, yeah, there's this you got to meet this priest. He's a former skinhead and blah blah blah, and tattoo artist and et cetera, et cetera. He's like, who is this? And so he's talking about, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Like he's telling us what his world where his worldview's coming from. We were all like, okay, we agree with your worldview. We understand where you're coming from with this worldview. How did you reach these conclusions? Because from a libertarian mindset, we're not coming to the same conclusions, but it's obvious what you're saying is true. And so he
Mhm.
starts talking about orthodoxy, and we're like, what is this? So like seven of us, like on this parallel trajectory without even talking to each other, start doing all this research into orthodoxy. And the next thing you know, like we're all joining the church and we're all like, oh, wait, what? So it was just kind of this weird road that we went down to, all of us went down to kind of stumble into orthodoxy. And so it's interesting the different ways that people find it and what draws different people into it because I had never felt internal peace prior
Mhm.
to finding the church. And it was like, oh, this is what normal people feel like. They don't want to kill every person they see. It's like, that kind of thing. And so it's so interesting that you had discovered that you kind of had this sense of the peace that like this taste of it and how attractive was that? How did you break away from that and not stay within those traditions?
Um, I would say that the main thing is because, okay, to use scripture, in our faith is Christ has a peace that surpasses all understanding, right? all the peace that I had experienced, it was fleeting. It was not true peace, or I wouldn't have to have kept searching. And that's where I finally got to was like, okay, this is the truth, and the truth is truly what I'm after. Then why is this so short-lived? And why is it that I have to do all this work to like get it? And then it's not even good. It's very short-lived. Now, it was strong, right? It's like, you know, it's like crack.
Yeah, it's like
It
that's what I was saying.
hits,
It's like a drug.
and you just like someone who's addicted, man, you chase the dragon. You do, and
Mm.
that's
And the
why
high
you
never
bounce.
the high never is as high the second time as it was the first. And you're chasing that
Yep.
first high. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah,
then once I
is this why people will intermingle the Eastern traditions with like psychedelics?
I think so. I think a lot of it, I think it comes from honestly people just being or feeling almost like not burnt out, but like again, this Gnostic idea, like I had like it's a secret and it's somewhere and I have to attain this secret. And once I have this secret, I'll have all the answers. And that's the, I guess the ending of it or the culmination of it is you go, okay, you learn to meditate, start meditating, and you can sit outside in freezing cold weather for hours and all these things, but it's never enough.
Hmm.
So you're like, okay, well, maybe I just need a little help. The ancients or this famous philosopher, God, used this medicine, and all the ancients used it, and this is the key. But it's just like a friend of mine who does that, goes on the ayahuasca retreats. Every time he comes back, he says, dude, I unlocked this thing. I get it now. But then 6 months later, he's telling me how he needs to schedule another retreat. And I'm like, do,
Yeah.
do we
Yeah.
not see this pattern here, And so when I had that moment in the room, since then, even through all the crazy denominations and all the crazy things that I've learned and believed and let go of, I've still had an ultimate peace whenever I just boil it all down and realize I'm serving the God of the universe, the creator of it all, Christ himself. It's like, okay, I can think again now.
Hmm.
And it's not this fake nirvana. It's just, it's the Holy Spirit. I mean, and it's true. It's true peace. And I didn't have the
There's a
fullness of that
clarity.
peace.
There's a clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's even, like I said, the fullness of it now that I'm in the church, it's even more. But like everyone told me when I got baptized, dude, the first like month or two after my baptism was like the furthest thing from peace that you could imagine. However, his peace still remained. It was just, again, we lose sight and you fall back on your flesh and you fall back on this. I gotta, if I do prostrations and the Jesus prayer enough, I'm gonna fight this, I'm gonna do this. And just go back. Of course, my splendid wife, she sits me down one day and reads the story to me. And it's a story of a monk who goes to Mount Athos and he's bragging, "Oh, I'll do 1,000 prostrations a day, da 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 da." And his abbot says, "Okay, well, I want you to do 10 a day."
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard this. This is awesome.
Comes back and he can't do 10. And he says, because the devil was helping you do the 1,000.
Yeah.
And out of obedience, you're having to do the 10 and you can't because it's out of obedience and love. And I was like, dang, man, like it truly hit me. And it's just like another evolution of truth, and that's what's crazy about the church, man, is like it is truly a fountain, and it's like a wellspring that never ends, and there's just medicine upon medicine and salve and truth and wisdom and clarity. And anytime you stray to this idea of legalism, like me right now, I'm looking at Elder Ephraim. You get some sweet little monk who comes and it's like, yeah, I mean, it is about following our Lord, but are you doing it with love, dude? Or are you doing it because you're just being an asshole right now and you're trying to prove something to yourself, you
Hmm.
know? And that's why I tell people it's like, and if you think Protestantism's all about love and all this stuff, Orthodoxy is the truth because it is love. He is love. He is every expression of it, every the fullness of it. If you think apostle, whatever Zechariah over here is forgiving, imagine what you can experience from the one who is forgiveness. And it's like thinking about Forgiveness Sunday. Like it's just it's overwhelming, the humility inside the church. And I was telling my wife this, not to jump around, but for holy what was that? Thursday? Yeah, when we have Christ nailed to the cross and everyone goes and venerates, and it's like I told her, it's like I saw people that have different beliefs, personal beliefs, political beliefs. I saw people that were Jewish. I saw former atheists. Every one of them knelt with reverence and humility and kissed the feet of our Lord. And it's like, that is the Christ who calls all and brings all to himself. That
Hmm.
one. The one that has Jews kissing his feet, the one who has atheists, the one who has me, who blasphemed him, who prayed prayers to other gods, who now accepts me as one of his own. And it's like, dude, it's so powerful, man. And like, gets me emotional now talking about it, but it's just insane whenever one who has been seeking the truth has, when you really encounter it. And it's like, there's no good, there's nothing that I could put together in words that could express uh, what it is and what it means. It's like you just have to be there, man. It just reminds me of like the old heads in the 80s, go to concerts, like you just had to be there, man.
Yeah.
Just had to be there. And that's
Yeah.
how I feel about the church. That's what I tell people, I still look, I'm a sinful dude, bro. Like I still argue with people online like a fool. I still try to convince people. Um, but ultimately dude, it's our love that will save the world. Like Saint Seraphim says, acquire the spirit of peace and thousands around you will be saved. It's not this puffed up idea. It's this idea that through love and through me being meek and crucifying myself and trying to um, put out the passions that are inside of me, if that helps you even the slightest bit, then it's like we're doing something here. Like we're making a move here, and especially if you can eventually get that to be just out of pure love, which is something that dude, absolutely struggle with. I can be I can be kind to anybody. But to like truly have love in my heart for them, that's I don't know if I'll ever cross that hurdle, but I'm gonna keep trying.
Yeah. I see, I've always been like very, very protective of myself because I've always felt like, I mean, due to circumstances I don't need to get into, of my childhood, and I love my parents, so it's not completely their fault. They were young and dumb and doing stupid stuff, and just like any of us were when we were in our late teens, early 20s. And so there's like and there's like this like self-protective, I'm very distrustful of people. And it took me, I mean, I've been in the church now. I've been at St. Michael's for 4 years, part of the church, since the nativity of 2022. And um, it was just over the last like 3, 4, maybe 5 months that I've really started to feel like I'm part of the church. You
Mhm.
know, I was not engaging with the church because of the community. I was engaging with the church because it's a hospital for sinners, and I needed what it offered, or I still need what it offers. But that was it. That's the only thing that kept me back. It kept me going back was like I knew what I was gaining there is what I needed, you know, and it's been a real struggle for me to become part of the church community and open up to people. Fortunately, you and I, like, I felt like we hit it off right away. Like I was like,
Absolutely, dude.
yeah. So it was like, oh, like I'm just talking to like my brother now. You could easily be my cousin. So yeah.
Quite
Uh,
literally.
Yes, yes. I do have a cousin Troy, but you look nothing like him. But uh but so yeah, have you read Father Seraphim Rose's book Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future?
So I've not read it entirely. I've heard portions of it, read portions, quotes, things like that. Uh, I've I don't know if it's that particular piece, but Father John Valdez is on Eknacron. He reads a lot of his work, and I've listened to some of that as well.
Mm.
But um, I couldn't recall, I don't think anything necessarily.
I have it. I'll bring it to you. I'll let you borrow it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And when I say borrow it, if I get it back, I get it back. I've already read it twice, so it doesn't matter. I'll be
Nice.
fine if I never get it back. You can hand it to off to whoever if you know somebody who needs it. So, but you'll
Right
enjoy
on.
it because he does talk about like the Eastern religions because he had dabbled in occult practices, Hinduism, all kinds of different stuff. I mean, he was into
Yeah.
homosexuality, like he was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I would be, like wouldn't be shocked if he had like some sort of like uh Crowley-esque like style like worship at some point in
Yeah.
time. From what I understand, it was close to that if it wasn't directly affiliated with Crowley.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was into all that stuff, and then he found the church, and him and his buddy, he had a buddy that he used, I think it was Father Herman, I think was his buddy's name, that they went off into the mountains and started a monastery, just them two. And
Hmm.
it's not, it was like very much like the Desert Fathers type story, the way he went up into the mountains of California just by himself. Not everybody can do something like that, and,
No.
you know, Father Joseph the Hesychast was another one. He didn't have a spiritual father. He just kind of like, he just became a hesychast by he just followed another monk that wasn't his spiritual father and learned how to pray the Jesus prayer and became a hesychast. Never in his life had a spiritual father, but he ended up with like hundreds of spiritual children under him,
That's one of
so
the books I have right now is
it's a really good
Elder
story.
Ephraim's book about him.
Yeah. Yeah. I have it right there. My elder Joseph the hesychast. Yeah.
Yep.
They're a
Yeah,
very good book.
I'm very that's the probably the next one I have up. I'm very excited to read that one. I'm bad about skipping around on books. I finish them, but I skip a lot. Like I'm partway through Wounded by Love right now. I'm partway through Elder Ephraim's book right now, Counsels from the Holy Mountain. Um, it's it's just part of my, I guess, ADHD brain. It's good for me in some ways because I can digest smaller portions at a time.
Hmm.
But everything that I've
I'm
read,
the same way. I'm reading 5 books right now, don't feel bad.
good. That
I'm
makes me feel
reading
better.
Saint Nicephorus, the Leper and Wonder Worker. I'm almost through that book. I'm also reading what is this? This is the Georgian Saints. I'm reading
Nice.
Athonite Fathers. I'm reading the Lives of the Great Desert Fathers. I'm reading Orthodox psychotherapy. I'm reading
Dude, I heard that
Devils.
is
It's deep. It's dense.
that's what I've
I'm sitting
heard,
here. I'm
bro.
on like chapter 4. I'm just taking notes. And I've been reading this. I've been reading through it for like 3 or 4 months, and just I'll read a couple of pages and just take a ton of notes off of it.
I heard it's
So
very, very heady.
and then I also have Andrew of Caesarea's book on Revelation that I'm like 4 or 5 chapters into. So yeah, I'm like you. I'm reading a bunch of different stuff, and then I also go through and I scroll like Orthodox sites for different saints and different articles, and if I
Yep.
have a subject that pops in my head, I'll go search and look and see if I can't find something on it. So I read on Saint Raphael of Brooklyn this morning, and I also read who was it? It was Saint Hilarion of Troitsky. I read about him this morning too. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm just bouncing
Yep.
around and
Dude,
reading.
I'm
I'm
bouncing all over.
ingesting as much as I can, and I'm trying to read more about the saints than I am about theology and dogma, because I don't want my rational brain to take over what I've actually been able to like how I've ever, how I've been able to like digest the lives of the saints and see how their struggles can be reflected in my own life in some way, and kind of understand how to live the Orthodox life more so than end up like, in these debates. And
Yep.
speaking on your social media, I was listening yesterday on Patristic Nectar. It was it was a series on repentance, and he had Bishop Ine speaking, and he said social media is demonic. So if you're Orthodox Christian, you should not be on there. So, and you should repent as soon as possible.
It's like, oh man. I
I was
get it. It
I
is,
was laughing
dude.
about. I'm not on social. I have social media, but I don't
Mhm.
use it like hardly at all. So, and as soon as
I
I start
am,
noticing it like changing my attitude, I just get off of it. I'm just like, I'm done with this. I don't need it.
oh, dude, it can like truly, truly, it, it just, what it does is the separation makes it not real in your mind. And
Mm.
so it makes the other people not real. And so you treat them as such,
Yep.
usually.
Yep.
You're basically talk to them like they're AI. Or maybe I'm the only person who talks aggressively to AI. No. But the to get back to Father Seraphim, one of the interesting things that I read about him early on that really caught my attention with Orthodox, because it was him and St. Paisios that were the two, they just always popped up.
Mm.
Somewhere in my life, they were showing up. And one of the big things with Father Seraphim was what he writes on Alan Watts and the fact that he actually sat in as a student of Alan Watts. And like, because I used to be, I mean, I used to think Alan Watts was, he just, I thought he was Chrysostom. Yeah, I thought he had a golden mouth.
Hmm.
And then I would sit back and listen, and then you find out too what happens to Alan Watts at the end of his life and how he's just in complete disarray and just miserable. And nothing that he said prior to that has any resemblance of what his life ends in. And so hearing Father Seraphim speak on Alan Watts, I was like, dang, I was this guy that you're talking about that falls for this man and his tricks. And like, so it helped, it was another big hurdle for me to cross over, because when you hear those little snips of Alan Watts, it's again, it's that hit, man. It's that crack hit. It's like, oh yeah, oh, stand on the edge of the abyss, and it's all these flourishing, pretty words, and it sounds cool and fun, and it's like, but it means nothing because it leads to nothing. And this man is a testament because he lived it his whole life and died in a very sad state, in a bad way, not at peace at all. And
Mm.
that's another one of the big things that I find interesting about our saints is how they repose and how the relics smell, and There's many of them have a smile on their face as, in their death. And there's something to that. And I read, reading in the Toll House stuff, which we don't have to get, that's a whole rabbit hole to get
Oh,
into.
I have that book here too, The Soul After Death. Yeah.
Yep. Learning about all that and just mixing all that together, it captivated me significantly. And like we said earlier, in our faith, dude, I'll go the rest of my life until I die and never scratch the surface,
Yeah, for sure.
ever, ever. And that's the beauty of it because as someone who was a constant truth seeker, now that I've found truth, I'm pretty much, like you said earlier, I'm just a patient in the waiting room. And whenever sickness comes in, I go back, I go to the back, get my healing, come back to the waiting room,
Hmm.
go back. It's like triage, taken care of, back and forth, back and forth. And
Right.
it's that for me it's everything, man, because I am a person who is sinful and I deal with many things and from all the trauma I have and stuff, the the devil has his ways with me. He has a lot of ammo for me, but getting to be around people like you, Joseph's another amazing man. Uh, it gives me a ton of motivation and hope and peace and joy to know that like it's like the Marine Corps, man. Like we're just in this battle together, and I know that you're struggling just as much as I'm struggling, albeit differently. We're both. When I look at you, you're gritting your teeth, and when you look at me, I'm gritting my teeth, but we're still, we're pushing forward nonetheless, and getting to see that and getting to be around that has been huge for me and getting to serve with Father is like I think that's probably the greatest theology life class I've ever had is
Yeah.
watching his humility and how he handles things and people and situations. Um, and it's simply it all boils down to just like really loving people, like truly having a heart to serve other people and loving them. And it's uh it's the most difficult thing as well,
Well,
ironically.
well, I don't like I'm not going to sit here and say I watch you constantly when during liturgy, but like when you are, in view and you're moving around, I can always tell not only that you're sincerely reverent, but you appear to be deep within prayer. And that to me is such an example for all those young men that are coming up in the church and serving behind the altar with you guys. Like you're setting such a good example because you're like, this is serious. This is like real serious business that we're engaging in. And
Glory to God, man.
and
Glory to God.
you're not one of the you're not a goofball and you're not back there like joking around and stuff like that. You're very locked in on what your role is in that. And I think that's such a good example for those young men back there. So I don't want you to get too prideful. So now I have to say something terrible about you. Comb
Please,
your hair or
please.
something. I'm just playing.
No, I read a quote one time about serving at the altar and it stuck with me
Mm,
tremendously. And I not that I'm special, I'm not special by any means. Father asked me to do that and I'm trying to be obedient to him. But I firmly believe, that the angels are present when we're there.
yeah.
That like we're truly in the presence of God and the powers of heaven and the saints and not just us at the all everybody, the whole church is. And it's if you can just remember that, it's like not to be fake and to have fake piety, but just to be humbled by that and realize that there's something around us that's going on that we're so like kind of puny in a way that we can't even truly, perceive, and that we need to be just have humility to that. And maybe one day in my life, God will show me something that other people don't see or that I can't understand. But if he sees fit, awesome. If he doesn't, it won't change how I feel. I get to see miracles every Sunday. Like I said, I get to watch Jews and atheists and Catholics and Baptists and all these people come and submit to the true Christ and like literally push aside all the things that we like us. I grew up Roman Catholic, you grew up Baptist. There's so many things that we have to lay aside to come to the truth and not to pat ourselves on the back, but it's just a testament to Christ and humility and like all that wrapped up in truth again.
Mm, yeah. Well, and when you look at, you know, the way that, I live my life, for what I don't know, 46. So I was 42 when I joined the church. So for 42 years, the way I lived my life, there's no good explanation as to why I'm even there. I mean, there's literally, you could even go as far as saying there's no good explanation as to why I'm even alive, you know?
Yeah.
So, but there's certainly no good explanation as to why I'm at the church. And there are moments where I'll just be like looking around at the people in the church, and I'm like, I don't belong here with some of these people. And then George will come give me a hug, and I'll be like, that's why I'm here.
Oh, dude, George,
That hug
man,
right there, that's why I'm here.
dude, those are some hugs that are priceless, dude.
Yeah, George is a gem, and he has such great wisdom and just knowledge and understanding, being cradle Orthodox, coming from Lebanon, and just really understanding the faith and growing up in it. Michael Ed too, he grew up cradle Orthodox. Now he left the church at one point and then came back, but yeah, he's my Michael Ed's my godfather, and
Nice.
yeah. So, because I remember like the first time I went, I met him, and that was in like October of 2021. And then, yeah, it was the weekend before Halloween because the next weekend, Father Michael was in Transylvania for Halloween. He's like, I always wanted to spend a Halloween in Transylvania. So, so he went, and then so 2 weeks later, I went back because excuse me, I knew Father Michael would be back. And my wife was like, well, she grew up like, it's like based off of Dutch Reform.
Okay.
It's apostolic, um, Dutch apostolic or something like that. I don't remember the name of the church. Anyway, but it's only, I think it only exists in South Africa, which is where she's from. And so
Okay.
she was like, I've been to Catholic mass and I've been to like a Muslim, like what do you like a mosque with some of my Muslim friends. I like the old religions. I want to see what this is about. And I was like, all right. So she came with me in November of 2021. And then I talked to Father Turbo like the week after that, maybe 2 weeks after that in December of 2021. And then I disappeared for 6 months. And then it was June, I guess, June of 2022 when I started coming back to the church. And it was
Hmm.
like every Sunday I'd wake up and my wife would be like, so are you going to go back to that church? And I'd be like, not this week. And that went on for about a month or two. And then I just kept filling this pool to go back. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to do this. And so I eventually did go back. And so, and thank God I did, but it was very much a struggle for me. And, it still is, but that's part of it is that struggle. I mean, every one of us has our own struggle and our own kind of path we have to walk. And we're looking down the barrel of our own humanity in different ways and at different stages. But we are there together to reach salvation, and that's the ultimate goal for all of us is to heal the human condition and to reach salvation in whatever way that God has planned for us.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'll take it sliding across the finish line, brother. I'll take it however I can get it.
Well, it's
Two
like the
wheels.
Well, it's like the St. John Chrysostom Paschal homily that they always read on Pascha, when he talks about whether you got here at first hour or 11th hour or the 13th hour, like whatever, like welcome, it's all the same. You're
Yeah, dude, that is I read that a lot actually because it does. It's a beautiful reminder of like God's grace and his mercy, and it's just it's like poor Judas, bro. It's like his sin wasn't that he betrayed God. We all betray God. His
his sin
sin
was
was
he didn't
that he didn't
repent.
repent, man.
You know.
He was prideful. He didn't have the humility, like even like Peter. He didn't have the humility to just be like, I'm a fool and I'm sorry, you know?
Mm,
And I can be that way too. We all can be that way, but just have to humble ourselves always over and over and over again. And it sucks because it hurts.
hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
prideful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
God, saw fit to make me a 6'3", 200 plus pound man. And I have to be meek. I need to be like a little lamb. And that's
Yeah.
tough sometimes.
Yeah. It is. You know, what helps me in when I feel like some of that old anxiety or bitterness or whatever starting to bubble up inside of my soul is I'll think about one of the like babies that are at the church. Like I'll just kind of think about them for a second. I'll be like, man, like the life that child has ahead of it growing up in this church. And part of my job as being a layman and laity at the church is to make sure that that child feels that we're like all of us are family. Run.
He came over to the side and asked me, can I walk past?
Yes, you can go. You can say hi too if you want.
Yeah, I know. Oh, she's too shy for that probably.
She's so
But
sweet. I haven't
oh
talked to her a
man,
lot because she doesn't talk that much, but she seems so sweet.
she is, man. That's another one of those things like that was a dangerous prayer prayed that you're witnessing there. When I had kind of fully decided on the church and we were, talking about our relationship and stuff, I had always, I'd gotten into the monastic idea and I was like, man, what is my calling? What does God want from me? And I just, one night I said, Lord, if there's someone out there that you have for me, um, I'll do it. I'll take care of her and I'll love her. I'll do my best to get her, give her right back to you. And shortly after that, I met her and it couldn't have been like more of a in your face, like, okay, dude, like you talked all that talk, bro. Like here she is. What's
Don't
what's
make
the what's your
promises you
move?
ain't gonna keep.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm your huckleberry, dude. Like what's your move? So it happened so naturally, how our relationship, came about and built. And I was at a time that I was, transitioning fully into like, okay, like I'm giving my life to Christ in a way that's to the world unnatural, like as a couple, we never spent the night together. Um, we were never together in any way, shape, or form before we got married. And that was that was like 2 years prior. We were together for about 2 years before we got married, and that was just a commitment that we made, and um, it was difficult. It's very difficult, and but because of all that, it's I have a wife who loves, respects me, who is, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, baby?
Oh, I'm good. I'm actually about to go to the store so I can make breakfast.
Okay, sweetheart. She's going shopping for lunch.
Ooh, I'm
Potato
good. I'm
soup
going for
today.
lunch. Ooh, nice.
Yeah. But So yeah, I don't know, man. And it's just one of those things that like it's I don't know where I was going with this, but I'll end it by saying that I have confidence in the church and Christ and his commandments because not that my life is always good. I mean, we suffered a lo- a loss of a child, and that was like that sucked tremendously. So it's not that our life is like, this perfect mega church pastor life where I get everything I want and it's all pretty and wonderful.
Right.
But my life is filled with peace and love and respect and with people who love me and with people who tell me the truth, even if it hurts me. Um, it's just totally, it's such a 180 from the life that I lived that I had to look over my shoulder always. I was a womanizer. I was just, dude, I was scum of the earth. And now, although life is still life and we live in this fallen world, like I still have this love that I feel from people and this genuine feeling of understanding from people, such as
Mm.
yourself. Like when we met, you didn't look at me like like I'm an alien or that like what is this thing in front of me? Because a lot of people look at me that way just because I don't fit this bill necessarily. Neither of us do really. Um, and it's things like uh, that feels like home, dude. It feels like an apple pie on a windowsill. It feels like all the right
Right.
things in the world, and not in this cheesy, um, gimmicky, trying to sell you something way, you know?
There's something about, well, first of all, I've never been a judgmental type person. That's just not who I am. I've always just been a standoffish type person and just protect myself and don't trust anybody. But but there's something about the Orthodox faith and the way that they talk about the church as a hospital for sinners that when you get it, when it clicks in your mind that everybody in here is sick, and that includes me. And you start pointing that finger back at yourself and you start reflecting deeply on your own darkness and the muck and the filth and the rot that you're dealing with. I was talking to my buddy Buck a couple of podcasts ago, and I was telling him, I was like, look, man, I was like, you told me a long time ago when you first read God's Revelation to the Human Heart by Father Seraphim Rose that you felt something deep in you. And Father Turbo told you that was your noose stirring within your body. I said, I get that feeling every time I go to the church. And I said, it's not because I'm special. It's because if God did not physically let me know that he was present, my faith is so weak, I would not go back. And I understand that about myself. I don't have any right to look at anybody at that church cross eyed for any reason whatsoever. I know what I've been through. I know what my life has entailed. I know the things I've done and had to confess. Like that, that church, like to me, everybody in that church is already a saint compared to me. Like that's the way I look at it. But you made a comment about like the way like people look at us. My dad converted in 2024. He was baptized at Saint Cyril of Jerusalem up in near Magnolia. It's up in that area off of 242. It's a little missionary parish. It's grown a lot. They had 230 people for Pascha in it in two double
On
wide
a mission
trailers.
parish. Yeah, dude.
In two
Wow.
double wide trailers. They have two.
Cool.
They have a double wide facing this way, which is their nave,
Okay.
and then they have a double wide here like this, like making an L. That's their hall.
I bet that thing was
That he sent
full
me picture
from,
that he said on Sundays their hall they had to wire a feed to the hall and have monitors up there so people can be in the hall and worship along
that's
with those in
awesome.
the nave. And he goes, that's a typical Sunday. He sent me pictures of outside. like the parking lot was full of people.
Oh, dude, that's
Like
crazy.
he said they had to run speakers out to the parking lot so that everybody could worship the Paschal
Heck yeah,
service.
dude.
I
That's
was like, that
awesome.
is so awesome. So yes, they will be looking to build soon, and that's up there. It's not really in Magnolia, but I think it's actually a Conroe address, but it's not really in Conroe either. It's
Okay.
right off. It's right off of 242 near 45, if you
I
know the
know.
area.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, um, and you would never think that they have so many people going there, but I, he was baptized. I think it was early 2024. Might have been late 2023, but I think it was around Pascha 2024. And he told me, he goes, before I found the Orthodox Church, I thought there was something wrong with you with your long hair and your beard. And then I joined the church and I realized, oh, my son's been doing it right the whole time.
Yep.
So
Dude, that was, that was the first time I went. It's crazy because I didn't know when you had been baptized. My first time was in t 2022.
okay.
Um,
And when did you join? When were you baptized?
I was baptized May 14th of last year.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And so 2022, it's so funny, man. It's crazy. The day that I was there, you were there actually. And when I saw you, I was like, yeah, man, this place is different. Like there's everybody's in here because you have certain people you see in the suits and they're dressed up nicely and they can do that.
Yeah.
And then you have people from every walk of life in there. And when I saw you, I was like, okay, if there's any like good reason, it's that man right there. Like he has seen something in this place that I can respect because I know just looking at him, I would respect him. He's been places. He's experienced life. And I think that's important. Like when people walk in, it's not this fake thing where everyone's wearing the same thing relatively, and everyone has this big smile, and it's like, oh, haha, hey, Christ, peace be with you, and all this. It's like, no, dude, like I just had a terrible week, and it took every ounce of everything I have to be here, and I still don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want
I
to
bet.
look at anybody. Like, and it's okay. That's completely okay. Whereas, you walk into some other place and they're like they want to try and liven you up and we need to be in the spirit and all this. And it's like, no, dude, like I just got in a wreck and the only car that I have and I have no ride to work now. And it's like there's so much going on, but again, that is what just keeps me in awe of the church is like it's just people who have humility realizing that the only place for them to get medicine is there.
Mm,
As much as it sucks to have to do it sometimes, and as much as you just want to stay at home, and as much as just any reason that you can fathom, any even good excuse, and you forsake that and make it there, it's like, okay, I did something. I may not feel better when I leave here, but I know something's happening by being here.
right.
And I don't have to fake it. That's the main thing is I don't have to fake it. And
Mm,
that's huge for me, man, because I've had to fake it a lot in life. Just wanting to be a people pleaser. I think naturally we tend to do that, but you're having a bad day, tell him like father, you know. He asked me, "How's your day?" I'm gonna tell him the truth. Like it's been rough, man. It's not been good. It's
yeah.
not, that's okay. And that's the main thing is the idea, the response is that's okay. Because then it makes it normal. It's not like, gasp, I can't believe, you're going through that or how I can't believe it's like,
What did you
no,
do to put yourself in that situation? Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
even if you did, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We're
Right.
we're we're goofballs, we'll figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. We we all have our own issues and we all have lots of problems, and none of us are perfect. And, you know, if you're married, you're going to have like little marital issues and spats and things like that. And, one of the hardest things for me to wrap my mind around was everything is for your salvation.
Dude.
I was listening, who was I listening to? I was listening to Lord of Spirits, their last episode they released. I love Lord of Spirits. I get so much
Yeah.
out of it. And sometimes I have to go on dry spells because I'm like, okay, this is a little too much. So I'm like, I gotta take a break because it can be overwhelming at times, the amount of information coming at you. But but I love the show Lord of Spirits. And I think it was Father Andrew Stephen Damick was talking about how we look at life like we look at everything on a linear path. It was one of the callers, I believe, called in and was asking about prayer or something like that. And he's like, we look at everything like linear and how everything's, he goes, but in the eyes of God, it's all flat. Like he's hovering above time and space. He's like, so the prayers that you say today could help you yesterday. So when you pray for the dead, you're not necessarily praying for them after they're dead. These prayers are being lifted up to God, and God is not experiencing these prayers in time. He's experiencing these prayers in their life. And I'm like, wow, that's so interesting. And if anything, just that experience, just understanding that experience, like that from that perspective, it puts me in the mindset of any time because driving truck, obviously, I get irritated at other drivers constantly. So it puts me in that mindset that anytime I catch myself thinking a bad thought about somebody, I'll I immediately just turn to the Jesus prayer. And I'm like, maybe the only reason I made it this far is because today I'm faithful enough to ask Christ to have mercy on me,
Dude,
you know?
that's
And so
huge.
just there's something so comforting about that.
Yep. That's something that I too put into practice. Like, so for me, whenever I get the evil one tries to like harm me with imagery and thoughts of my past sins. And as soon as that happens, if I'm conscious enough at the time, which most of the time he has his way with me for at least, 10 or 15 minutes. And then I realize, like, okay, I'm literally fighting with the devil here or his demons or whatever. And I start saying the prayer. But another thing, too, is if it's about a person, I immediately pray for them. I have this negative or perverted thought from a past experience or something. I immediately say, well, Lord, have mercy on this person. I pray that they're well, that they're doing better, that they're seeking you constantly, that they're trying to find the truth. And then I'll go into my Jesus prayer. And that seems to be literally the only thing that I've found that like that really puts a salve on it, that really helps it.
Yeah, it
And
puts you at ease.
yeah.
I know there are ways to abuse it and things like that, but I from what Father Turbo told me, he was like, just say it a few times and just put yourself at ease, like just to calm that anxiety, just to
Mhm.
get over yourself because what you're experiencing is not of you. And in these thoughts, it's like there's an old saying, people don't have thoughts, thoughts have people.
Mhm.
Or people don't have ideas, ideas have people. Like it's like you're possessed by this,
Right.
and you'll see this with like you would see this with me back in the day. It's part of the reason I don't write like I used to is because I would be overtaken by the story that I was involved in. Like it would be all encompassing. I would have trouble mentally extracting myself out of the story and being in real life. And
Mhm.
this is kind of like the the insanity of the creative. It's like if you're in the middle of a piece of art, if you're in the middle of building or in the middle, like that thing encompasses your entire existence. That's
Right.
becomes who you are. And my family is very, like, at least on my dad's side, very artistic. My grandpa he wrote poetry that was published, like, without his knowledge. His mom was sending in his poetry and having it published.
That's
And
cool.
my dad's very was painted a lot, especially after he had his back surgery. He was like 33 and he had two herniated discs. He had a back surgery, and so he was off work for a long time. So he was painting a lot. And my uncle David, he was a musician, played guitar, was brilliant at it. Was friends with Jimmy Vaughn, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother.
Hmm.
My buddy Buck, there's actually video on YouTube of my buddy Buck playing drums for Jimmy Vaughn at what's why am I blanking? I'm hitting a blank. A Ron Paul event in like 2012 or something like
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, like up in Austin, I think it was. Yeah, so but anyway, so it's like that creative mind, you can be overwhelmed and overtaken by these these passions that but it's kind of like this desire to escape. It's this escapism. It's the same reason people use drugs or like become alcoholics. It's just trying to get away. And in art and creativity can become that. It can become the idol for you.
Dude,
And so I've been thinking lately. I wrote a chapter a while back of a book that I'm thinking about putting together. I want to talk to Father Turbo about it before I like dive too deep into it. And then I've been
mhm.
thinking lately about like writing out like kind of like psalms type deal, like poetry, like
Yeah,
just with what I'm going through. But I don't want to get overwhelmed and get find myself in pre-list because of this. You know what I'm
hmm,
saying? So it's
yeah,
definitely something I want to talk to Father Turbo about and and find out the best way to do it and if there is a proper way for me uh to expel some of these more creative juices that I have within myself.
definitely. I'll look forward to that. Hopefully, it all goes well. That's some good reading. I know it would be. Uh, about the Jesus prayer, kind of back on that thing, the same thing that you were saying is
Yeah,
like,
sorry, I saw a squirrel.
no,
I just kind of ran with
I was running right behind you, brother. Uh,
it.
I have at first I had a tendency to use it kind of like a drug, an escapism tool. I would find myself saying it, but I would say it like so manically. I would just like so fast and over and over and over and quickly and that would like turn into this manic like mantra almost and would even sometimes pull me deeper into whatever I was trying to get away from or the anxiety and it's like what you said what Father Turbo told you kind of and now it's I say it with intention and slower and I don't try to use it as a tool to necessarily hinder me from feeling what's going on, but just again, like as this medicine to understand repentance, whatever the case may be. But I've caught myself just like over and
Mm,
over and over and over and over and saying it like a maniac. And I'm like, this can't be right either,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I will utilize it when going to bed because I have an issue with dreams. So,
Hmm.
and that helps. Honestly, it does help. But other than that, it's just mainly whenever I'm feeling like anxious or frustrated, which I had anger problems for many years. So, um, I think part of part of overcoming that was old age and just becoming lazier, just not as interested in being angry anymore.
I've found the same thing. At 35, it's like I have to ask myself, like, do I have the actual energy reserves to spend on this right now? And
Right.
99% of the time, it's like, Nah, dude, you can go make waffles. Like,
Yeah,
there's
is it
something
worth
much
getting
better to
so
do.
caught up? Yeah, is it worth it getting caught up in this?
No.
Yeah, for sure. But so what is the because like obviously when you tell your story, like it's obvious, like you were whether it was athletics, or it was the Marine Corps, you were searching, you were trying to find a path. Um, I've heard Father Turbo refer to it as the royal path, not to the left or the right, but the royal path.
Mhm.
And what has it been like for you, as far as like the way you think about the world and engaging with the world? How has that changed within you? Because I know that's something that's majorly changed with me, like the way I interact with people, the way I see people, the way I view myself as compared to other people. That's been a major issue, major change.
Yeah, I think when I first, probably like the year before I got baptized, and maybe even a couple months after I got baptized, I was very judgmental in the way of like, why aren't you see? What are you got? Like, what else are y'all doing other than trying to find the truth? Like like what is there to do outside of this? It gave me a lot of pride in that way of like, I've found this thing. Why aren't you searching for it? Why haven't you found it yet?
Mm,
That turned into realizing how arrogant and prideful I am to act this way whenever it took me 35 years to
yeah.
do, the same thing. And then that turned into kind of despising myself in a way which was terrible and negative. And then it finally evolved into I'm just a sick person. I need to try and figure out ways to talk to myself better and to love myself through these spells that I'm having.
Mm,
The same way Christ would, love me and take care of me. And then that evolved into seeing people as people who are just in dealing with some sickness in their life at some point.
yeah.
And that still call, I mean, I still fail miserably at it, but that's my goal now is that I see things from the perspective that we are just all sick, including myself, and that the only way that we can come to the knowledge of truth, if you're outside of the church, is through love. Is through me just really like just taking care of people, loving people, not being, not seeking this vain glory that I seek sometimes from people because the truth of the matter is that sometimes we don't really care if people become Orthodox for their salvation. We care that they become Orthodox so that we can feel like we did something
Or to
or like
verify like our own actions.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so now it's just everything has shifted to love and not in this like gay Protestant, Jesus is my boyfriend way. It's in a very like, how can I crucify myself further to love, to be able to love this person better, um, and feel no enmity or hate or resentment towards them. To like truly love them and care for them in a Christ-like orthodox way, not in this enabling way, not in a fake way, but what does true love look like? And that
Right.
sometimes means like telling people things that they don't want to hear, but it's also learning how to tell people those things in a way that's love. Because I can, as a Marine, I have a very, it's easy for me to just be like, yo, shut up and listen. This is it.
Yeah.
Versus like, okay, dude, I see where you're coming from, and like Paul when he's talking to the pagans, like you found something, but it's a nameless God. I know his name, and just treating people with love, man. And it's just difficult because people will, as you know, they take kindness as weakness. And then it's, I'm fighting my pride and stuff in that. And so it's just this constant battle now that before I was fighting against, but now it's like I've taken up the idea that this is just gonna suck kind of,
Yeah.
and it's okay that that sucks. It's bigger than me, and I think ultimately where my mindset is right now, something that like Elder Ephraim and them talk about a lot is it's just like, what's a little struggle here for eternal glory? Like,
Yep.
really, what's the cost, man? Like, what are we talking about? Like, truthfully. And if I have the ability and the patience to like step outside of myself in those moments, I can usually handle them with a bit of like humility. When I am quick to answer or respond, it's usually always bad, dude. It's like
Mm.
always comes from vainglory or pride 99.9% of the time.
You mentioned earlier, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but you mentioned the loss of the child earlier,
Hmm.
and the first thing I thought of was our culture growing up in the South, the way you and I have grown up. We're not that far apart. I'm only 9 years older than you, so our lives weren't that much different. Is you don't show weakness, and I've discovered that it's okay to be vulnerable. Like it's not the end of the world if you are a little vulnerable and human, and people will see that and not only have compassion or empathy, but there's something about that vulnerability that evangelizes even stronger than our pride or vainglory ever could.
Hmm. It does, dude, and like to be quite frank, it's scary because as much good as comes from being vulnerable, like being vulnerable, right? You offer so much to another person. You offer them the ability to have compassion, to all these things. But then you also
Give them
like
opportunity to take advantage of you.
you offer yourself up to be crucified too, man. And it's like those are the battles that I fight a lot, man, and it's all stems from pride, and this idea that I can't be looked at in this light or have people think of me in this light or as weak or whatever. And it's like, just all you have to do is just think like our Lord Christ got spit, like people spit on him and he didn't do a thing, man. And I get mad if someone like, just says something that's wrong about my character or something,
Mm,
and I'm so, I don't know, man. It's awesome and depressing all at the same time because you realize how far you are from like the saints and this idea of theosis. But then it's also wonderful because we have a plan, we have the tools. It's just, do we want to
right.
use them?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right. How has it have you noticed a change in your marriage and your relationship?
Um, I would say, and we're talking about from the loss or in general.
Just in general. Just in
It's
general, just becoming both of y'all becoming Orthodox, finding the church, kind of having that, you kind of have this cornerstone now, and you're like, okay, we
Mhm.
have the foundation to build on. Like, did that change things for y'all?
Oh, definitely. It most certainly did. It just gave us more confidence in knowing that what we want is good and right, which is a family, children, to raise them righteously, and to know that through all of that, we have a place that we can always go to, no matter where we are in the world, that we can find a community. And
Yeah.
it's like-minded people. It's, people that are, like I said, going through every walk of life. So it's only given us confidence and like you reading the lives of the saints, man, that's been huge for us. Adding that to the faith, to the divine liturgy, to all the things, it's like we truly feel like we're a part of something that's normal
Yeah.
versus this crazy ass world we live in.
Yeah.
Like it literally just makes you feel like, all right, like we're doing this for God and we're not, it's not crazy. Other people have done it. Like there are millions of people who strive for this same lifestyle, and it's not um all of this OnlyFans and having a lot of money and nice cars is not like the precipice of being. It's having a family, creating a tradition, um, paying off your home so that your family's taken care of, loving people, taking care of the old lady at church,
Yeah.
It's like all these, it's like all the storybook things, in a way, and not to like over romanticize it or anything, but again, like the best way I can think of it is like it just feels like home. It feels like I'm finally in my entire life am where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and headed in the direction that I'm supposed to be heading. My whole life, I've not felt that way. My whole life, I've felt like, yeah, I'm good at football, but there's something more. Like, this isn't my being. This is not what I'm supposed to do as a thing to be
Mm.
in this world as a football player or as this or as that. And it's like now that I'm here and I'm working towards fulfilling all these things, I feel like I'm actually like now it's counting for something.
Mm.
And God willing, I one day I want to be a clergy, and so that's another thing I'm working towards. Next year I'm hoping to go to um, the Antiochian House of Studies to start getting my certificate and doing all those things. And it's like I just feel for once in my life that I'm actually there's purpose and there's meaning, and I truly care about people. And I want to serve people and I want to help them. And yeah, I don't know, dude. That's really it's kind of all over, but that's the best way I can explain it. It's just feels right, feels in line, and it doesn't feel fake. And it's like these conversations that just add to it, really, that just continue to remind me like this is it, dude. Like you're where you're supposed to be, man. Like
Right.
these are your people, and it's hard. It sounds weird saying that, but if obviously people from America are gonna watch this, you'll understand what I mean. Like I don't feel a part of the society at all. I feel
Hmm.
very like if I had to be a part of the society, it just very estranged to me, even if I wasn't Christian. It's gone to a place that's so far outside of my realm of like comfortability and understanding being a Southern man that it's like it's crazy. Like in 2019, I went to Portland and I saw another human walking another human on a leash, and I was like we're not in Kansas anymore, brother. Like we are not in
Hey,
the
man,
realm
leave
of
your fetish
things.
at home, man.
Dude, I was like, this is real, man. And it's like, obviously, it's only expounded from there, from that point on. And so it's just, it feels cool to have a club that you belong to and a place that you can go and people like us can talk and we can not feel estranged or weird or out of the norm for having the views that we have and talking about, saying words like struggle and making it a part of like our being. Like that's what we do. We struggle, we
Yeah.
sacrifice versus the world. Yeah, no, it's all about me and I'm gonna kill my baby because I just don't feel like it, and I'm gonna go have sex again and I'm gonna kill that baby again.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, dude, it's just
And the
it's nice.
discipline, the responsibility, it's all,
That's a big
one of
one.
the things I noticed within myself, and we don't have to go much longer. I don't know how much time you have, but you can let me know when you're running out of time and we can end this. But one of the things I realized and I saw within myself was when I got out of the military, I was looking for that same type of brotherhood. I
Yeah.
was desperate for it. I mean, I was hanging around with motorcycle clubs. I never prospected or joined one, but I was hanging around with a couple of them at different points. I was trying basically to form my own kind of community. I would have there was a period where I had my brother and a couple of other guys living with me, and my wife and my kids, like not like religiously, not like a cult, but just to have that community available.
Yeah.
And nothing ever fulfilled that. And it wasn't, like I said, until a few months ago, whenever I started really letting down my guard at the church, that I really started to feel like, oh, I found what I was looking for. I found that community that I was looking for. And it's not um limited to one locale. There are Orthodox churches all over the place. Like
Hmm.
if I go up to Houston, I go to St. Joseph's. I know people up there. I can go to St. Jonah's, which is Rocor. It's Father John Whiteford's church up in Spring, and I know Father John. I've had him on my show a couple of times, and I know some people that go to church there. I can go to
Hmm.
my dad's church, St. Cyril of Jerusalem, which is a Greek Orthodox church there near his house. And we're my wife and I were looking to move to Cape Town in like 5 or 6 years. Whenever these dogs finally kick the bucket, we'll sell the house and we'll pick up and we'll move to Cape Town. And there's an Orthodox church there in the CBD, the city business district, or however you central business district, whatever it's called. And it's St. John of the Ladder. I've already been in contact with the priest there. I've emailed with Father John Valadez.
Nice.
Father Turbo is my spiritual father. At a Serbian church in Kansas City, Missouri. You know, and like there's all these contacts, and like my buddy Buck, who's the host of Counterflow, he goes to a Rocor church. My buddy Matt, who lives in north of San Antonio, actually drives to Lockhart to go to church with Buck every weekend. He was a catechumen at Father Josiah's church in Riverside, California. Like this
Okay.
community's like huge. It's
Yeah.
dynamic, and it's everywhere. And if you go, you never feel like you're unwelcome. It doesn't matter which church you go to, which
Right.
Orthodox parish you go to, you can like you're right in there, right in the groove. You understand the worship. You may not speak Slav, but you know where they're at in the liturgy. Like
Exactly.
it's like, and it's just so cool. And so hearing that you have aspirations, God willing, to become clergy, that would be amazing. I think that would be really good. Obviously, there's a clergy shortage. Saint John the Divine needs a priest, and I don't think Deacon Elias has any ambitions of moving beyond deacon. And Subdeacon Nicholas, I think, is going to remain subdeacon or possibly become deacon at some point. But I think he's an engineer. I don't think he has
Hmm.
any aspirations of moving in any other direction. Not knowing how God's going to move him, but
Of course.
you
Yeah.
never know. But so it's a good thing to desire. I remember hearing again. I think it was Father Andrew Stephen Damick was talking to a catechumen a while back. I think this was on a different show. I don't think it was on Lord of Spirits. But the catechumen asked him. He said, I'm starting my catechumenate, and I want to become a priest." And Father Andrew Stephen Damick said, "This may be coming from a human desire, and but it's a good thing to desire that Christ wants clergymen. He wants presbyters." and that it's a good thing to desire, and just to remain faithful to your local parish and be in contact with your local priest, and he will direct you in the ways that you need to go. And I think that's so comforting to so many people, so many young people coming into the Orthodox Church, that when you finally get it, you're like, oh, I see it, and I want to give more to this than I'm giving currently. And if you can give yourself, if you can give your life in that way, if you're um, able to become clergy and be ordained, that's a good thing. And there are people that will be dependent on you, and you will be taking a major, major weight upon your shoulders. And it's it's very difficult, and it's very taxing on a person, but it's a good thing to desire to sacrifice yourself in that way. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
I don't
wrestle with
see
it.
I don't see yeah, I was just going to say I don't see any reason why anyone should discourage you from attempting to follow that.
Yeah, it's I've read so much about it. And I've read St. John Chrysostom on the priesthood. That's an interesting, hilarious book, actually. But you know, it, I, it's something I think, I do want it, but there's something in me that feels called to it in a strange way. I understand the magnitude of it. I don't fully, because obviously never done it, but I have an idea, and it scares the life out of me to think of it in that way, having souls that I account for, um, or that, I shepherd or try to uh, get to heaven, salvation, and all these things whenever I myself am just a sinful man trying to work out his own salvation. But I think it comes from a good place. But ultimately, it's just about like what you ended it with. It's just being obedient. I want to be obedient to Father, and if he feels like, he's given me the blessing to attend the school. So it's little things like that where that's, he has confidence that I could go there. And whenever he retires, which is extremely sad to even think about and talk about, but,
Yeah.
you know, whoever comes up next, I'll be obedient to them. And, whatever, if he says, actually, I don't want you to go here, I'll say, okay, I won't, because it's a lot bigger than just me. It's like the Marine Corps in a way. Like it's the needs of the Marine Corps, so it's the needs of the church, and wherever God wants me, I'll go. But I can't lie and say that I don't want something. That
Yeah.
would be disingenuous. But we'll see, God willing, by your prayers, by the prayers of everybody. If it is to be, as they say, so be it.
Yeah. Well, so the first time I noticed you were already working behind the altar.
Mhm.
I don't remember ever seeing you in liturgy. And part of that's because I'm such a stickler for making myself focus, because my mind will wander. If I start
Mhm.
looking around, which you'll see me do every once in a while, but then what I'll do immediately when I start looking around is I direct my attention to the cross. I just immediately just start looking up at the cross and just trying to refocus my brain. So I'm very like oblivious to what's going on around me half the time whenever I'm in liturgy, because I am so determined to remain focused in the liturgy.
Yeah.
So, but the first time I noticed you, I remember I walked up front to the narthex and asked Michaelette, I was like, "Who's that guy? I've never seen him before." You were already working behind the altar, and he's like, "Oh, he's like Father's right hand man." Blah 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 blah. And so you kind of took the place of like Tyler, because that's what Tyler had done before he became a police officer. He was kind of like
Mhm.
Father's like right hand man, and then he became a police officer, and now he works like weird hours, and you
I
can't
know,
make it.
dude.
So you can't. So you kind of took his spot. So you came at it like a great time,
Yeah.
and just slid right into that position, and you do a great job. But I remember looking out the window one day. I was in the narthex, and I looked out the doors, and I saw your car sitting there. I saw the "Death to the World" stickers, and I was like, I wonder who that is. And I was like, is it William? maybe, or Moses. Who is that? Like, whose car is that? I don't think I've ever seen anybody drive that car. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Death to the World and what it's meant to you, and how Father John has been a great friend to you and assisted you in your walk, and just kind of
Yeah,
what that means.
man. So whenever I stumbled upon Death to the World, I couldn't
Just
even.
as an aside, I wore my Death to the World shirt just for you.
Heck yeah, dude. Saying I got mine on too, of
Yeah.
course. I don't have many other shirts these days, but I really couldn't tell you how I stumbled upon it. Thinking back, but all I know is that I saw it and I was like, man, that is freaking metal. What is this about? Went to the website, read the whole thing about, the quote about what it means, and I was like, what? Yeah, this is so cool. And then I realized like this is Orthodoxy. Like, okay. I've never encountered this in my life with Christianity, like this style and flavor and saying death to the world. And I got my hands, I ordered a design from them and read the design, and I was just enthralled. I was like, this is crazy that we have this at our fingertips. Like, why don't more Orthodox people know about this stuff, death to the world? And I was kind of spreading it to St. John and like, bringing my little sign up and like, oh, dude, read this, check this out. This is crazy. And then I found the shirt, started buying his shirts and stuff. And long story short, I messaged him one time on Instagram trying to tell him, I was like, hey, Father, I love everything that you do. This is amazing. I was like, but I'm a disabled veteran and I live on a pretty strict budget. Is there a way that you could sell me the signs for what you pay for them so that I can distribute them to people? Because that's what I was just going to buy a bunch of them and hand them out. And he was like, that's awesome, dude. How about I just send you some PDFs and you print them out and then hand them out, for free? I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, that works too. Like, that's super awesome. And so we kind of went back and forth. I was just asking him some questions about the designs themselves. And so I ended up printing a bunch of them, handing them out everywhere, handing them out at church, putting them up at the church in Lake Charles. And all during this time, just kind of having small conversations with Father John about the priesthood and about wanting to pursue it, and getting insight and information on like what that looks like. And basically his was like, you just need to be obedient to your father, let him know, but be obedient to him, and realize that it may not look how you want it to look. Father Michael might not just grab you and say, okay, hey, Paisios, I want you to be a priest and we're going to start doing personal classes tomorrow. And I'm going to show you all the ins and outs. And, it's like, it just may look like him pulling you over to the proskomedia table to show you like, hey, these are the prayers that I say, and this is the reason why, or giving me a blessing to go to school. Um, Dude, even just allowing me to do the things that I do behind the altar, I'm very blessed in that regard because I'm not an ordained person. I'm not a reader. I'm nothing. I'm just a dude wearing a cassock that Father, allows me to bless.
Hmm.
And so again, it's that pride that gets in front of you, and it's like, I am complaining about all these things, but I don't see all of these other wonderful things happening to me. And Father John's like, yeah, like that is him kind of leading you in this direction. He's like, I know I don't just ask people to do these things if I, just for willy-nilly reasons or whatever. But he gave me a lot of help and guidance in that. And then full circle, he follows our business account and has ordered some sensors and stuff from us for his church.
Oh, cool.
So it's like this. It's a really cool symbiotic relationship, and he inspires me a lot just because it's kind of like you, tattooed dudes who come from this certain kind of background, and it's inspiring to see him as a priest and lead people in his talks and how passionate he is about getting the truth out, even the truth within Orthodoxy teaching. And his willingness to stop and talk to people like random people like me who just message him and ask him for advice. Like
Yep.
I'm like literally just a nobody layperson and not even remotely close to him across the country from him who just popped in his messages and was like, I need pastoral advice, Father. And he didn't shake a stick at it. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
he would love to help in any way that he could. So it's that's what our relationship's been like. It's been fantastic. And a plus to all of that is he actually lets me use their logo. I started doing Death to the World mugs. I'll go grab one real quick so you can.
Yeah. What was that?
This is a very raw, unfinished one, but
Oh, cool.
these are the mugs that I make. Basically, I made a couple of them, and I was like, man, maybe I should get his blessing because it's, you know, it's kind of his thing. And so I messaged him one day and sent him, you know, pictures and everything, and asked him if I could have his blessing to make these mugs and sell them. And he was like so kind and was like, heck yeah, he was stoked. He was like, sell them, bro. Like, you have my blessing. If anybody says or anything to you, then just let me know. And actually, I did. We had someone come on our Instagram and tried to like out us. We had a very terrible relationship with this guy. It was, I'll do the quick version, but he would come on a lot of our posts and publicly ask if we had a blessing to kind of, it just kind of felt gross. Like, why wouldn't you just private message me?
Right.
Long story short, his wife owned a jewelry company and we decided to buy our wedding rings from them. And she basically cheated us out of like $3,200.
Oh,
Uh, she sent us these rings that were like, they're absolutely hideous. Like she used like stamps to like beat letters into. It was just so poorly done and terrible, and that led to a whole big stink of a thing in itself. But anyway, that was a whole side quest there. But yeah, Father gave us the blessing, and you know, we did actually have people that were upset about it and reach out to us, but you know, he's been so kind and backs us up and says, if anybody says anything, you can just direct them straight to me. And he's just swell guy. I wish that we lived closer to, so I could spend more time with him. Because we tried to do a phone call one time, but he actually ended up getting really sick. So we couldn't do that. And with his schedule, I try not to bother him. I know he's busy just as much as any priest would be
yeah.
busy. So I try not to bother him. God willing, one day I'll get to sit down with him, cup of
Yeah,
coffee or
for
something. That'd
sure.
be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know Buck just had him on his show a couple of
Nice.
weeks ago. He's so he got a blessing from the from Metropolitan Saba
Mhm.
to start a retreat. Like Metropolitan Saba is really interested in doing these retreats around the country, and he found like 123 acres there near like 15 minutes from his church in
Mhm.
California. And they want to do like a vineyard and cabins and a retreat type deal. So that's pretty
Dude,
cool. Like that was what
yeah.
the whole show was about. That he was talking about that, announcing that on Buck's show that this is something they're looking at and they're doing. And it sounds really interesting.
Dude, yeah, that's after I saw one of their posts the other day that he had made on it and told the wife, I was like, yeah, that'll for sure be a destination one of
Yeah.
these days. Once they get it up and running, we'll have to go. Like it's a must.
Yeah.
Go check
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I've only emailed with him like one time a couple of years ago, but he was a very nice guy. I don't even remember what I was asking him. I had a question for him about something. He had trained as a tattoo artist under Father Turbo.
Right.
So like the circles are real small. I've even one time just out of the blue, like I was a I was a inquirer still. I wasn't even in the church. And I had emailed Metropolitan Jonah. And the next day he like got back in touch with me. It was just
That's it.
like I'm like, okay, this bishop's just talking to me. I don't even know what to call him. You know, I'm just like,
Sir.
I'm like, like my email was seriously like Metropolitan Jonah, comma, just like I had no idea like to call him your grace or your eminence or none. I had no idea whatsoever. You know, I'm such an informal person as it is,
Hmm.
and it's like my mom always like drilled in my head like that person's not so special. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. And so
Yep.
I just have that same attitude my mom has. So the reverence to people has been like the really difficult thing for me. It did not come naturally for me to like bow or kiss the hand of Father Michael or any of like
Yeah.
all that stuff like being reverent to icons or the gospel. All that was like really pretty easy. I didn't necessarily understand it, but I was like, well, this is obviously like, let's just take Archangel Michael, for example. Like the church is named after him. So he's important to the church. So I'm going to be reverent to him,
Right.
And so like I never had an issue with that. But it was like, but people, because I had such like, I was so, I'm still very suspicious of new people. And then I have such trust issues because of like my past that like it was always just like, wait, I'm supposed to kiss his hand? Why? Like I don't know him. you know? And so and it was just like and it was so natural for me to like as soon as I started feeling like I was getting into the church and getting close to somebody, I would just pull back.
Hmm.
I would like skip like 3 weeks. I'm like, maybe they'll forget about me. Like, I'd show back up. And I remember like going to the church in October. Michael Ed was the first person I met. And then 2 weeks later, when I went with Beatrix, he remembered me. And then I didn't go for 6 months and I showed up and he remembered me 6 months later. And I was just like, okay. So whenever it came to finding a godfather, like I waited till the day before I had to decide and I called him and asked him, you know? And so he was like, yeah. And he sent me like, he came up to me the next day at church and he showed me like two or three crosses. He's like, which one do you want? And I was like, yeah, give me that one. I like the one with Adam under Christ's feet. Like that one's cool. And he was like, okay. And so that I mean, and we've developed like much more of a relationship now, you
Hmm.
know. But here it is 4 years later, 3.5 years later. But yeah, I was just I'm so suspect of people that I'm just like I'm standoffish when I meet new people.
Yeah. That's fair, dude. I mean, it's hard not to be in this world. Like people wear so many masks, man.
Yeah,
It's difficult. It's tough to one, it's tough to like so you end up accepting a person and then it's the realization like, oh, that's not really who they are.
yeah,
And so it creates, for me, it just messes with my mind because I'm a very logical person. I use logic in a lot of things. And so it throws my brain off. It makes it fritz a little bit because I'm like, what? But, and it's just understanding, humans are humans and they can be that way sometimes. But
right,
I
yeah.
just have to take people at their word. That's what I've learned is like, if you tell me something, that's all I can do, man, is just take what you tell me and go forward.
You know what we should do? We'll conspire. We'll start now trying to convince Father Michael to invite Father John Valdez to the Lenten retreat next year to give the Lenten
Oh,
retreat. I'm down for that.
I'm down. I will start planting little bugs, dude. No problem. You're like, so this Father John guy, huh?
I'm sure he
Yeah.
knows him. I know he
Oh, I'm
knows Father
sure.
Josiah.
Dude, the
So,
other day he was um Stephen was going to the marriage retreat, which ended up being a bust for him. But anyway, Father told him to tell Father Josiah that he needs to work on his tennis game. I was like, okay,
well,
so we're personal.
oh yeah, yeah. I met Father Josiah 2023 Lenten retreat at St. Joseph's in Houston.
hmm
And I met him there, and we were, we had a chance to talk just for a few minutes. I got a picture with him, and we talked for a minute. And my buddy Matt, that had his wife and their son, who had catechumened at St. Andrews in Riverside, were there with us, and Buck was there. They came down, and I drove up, so we just kind of met there and just hung out for the day and went to the retreat. He did a teaching on Saint Seraphim of Sarov. It was right after this Chronicles of Seraphim. I'm looking at the book right now. It's not a
hmm
cheap book. It's a beautiful book. I haven't even cracked it open because I'm afraid I'll mess it up. Like let me show you this. See if I can do this without things falling. My books are all okay. So,
Oh
but
man,
that's a
that's
cardboard
the
cover.
cover.
It's gorgeous. And I mean, it's huge. It's a
Is that
huge,
white leather?
yes.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
cool.
and like inside, it's
Oh
beautiful. It's a
man.
beautiful book, and I'm just so afraid to like. I need to read it every time I look at it. I'm like, God, I want to read that book so bad. So so he was doing the lecture on this book. It had just come out.
hmm
Don't fall. And Buck's um, Buck's patron saint is Saint Seraphim of Sarov. So I was like, well, I'll buy Buck a copy for his baptism because he was getting baptized that year. So I bought him a copy and me a copy. And he was like, dude, don't do that. It's not a cheap book. And it wasn't a cheap book. It was like $75 or something like that. But it's like I asked him, what was it, like 6 months ago? I asked Buck, I was like, have you read that book yet? And he goes, no, dude, I'm afraid to touch it. It's so gorgeous. I'm like, me too, dude.
Get some white gloves to read that thing, bro.
Yes, yes, yes. Like completely sterilize the entire house. Go live in a bubble with it. But yeah, so I met him there and he goes, so you're already Orthodox? And I was like, yes, sir. I was like, I go to church at St. Michael's in Beaumont. And he goes, oh, tell Father Michael I said hi, and he's all like, he goes, I love Father Michael. He's the sweetest man. I stayed at his house the last time I was coming through town, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they know each other fairly well.
That's cool.
And Father Josiah, he's like, man, he wears this huge cross. You don't see it in the interviews that he's in, but he wears this really big cross that was given to him by a metropolitan,
hmm
and it's got relics of Saint John Chrysostom in the cross.
Wow.
Because many people say he's like the second coming of Saint John Chrysostom. Like, there's a
That's
lot of
cool.
people that say that, and so yeah, but he's a really interesting guy. He's a really sweet guy.
Yeah, so actually Father Michael, whenever I was being catechized, Father Michael gave me the blessing to use Father Josiah's catechesis
Mm.
because I wasn't able to drive at the time. Like the classes are at like 6:30 or 7, 6 or 7, I don't remember, on a Thursday, and it was there was just no way I could do that to drive there and drive back home. And I just told Father, I was like, I just like there's no way that I can do this. And he was like, okay, let me think. And I had messaged him. I was like, well, Father Josiah does a live catechism class the first Friday, I think, of every month, or it was that. And he was like, does he have it archived too? I was like, yeah, there's archive. He's like, well, go through that and attend his live classes and then stay in touch with me. And that's pretty much how I did my catechism. And the last little like extent before we got baptized, I had stepped away from that church, like I told you before, for the couple of weeks where we were trying to really, okay, went to service. It was a divine liturgy in Lake Charles on a Saturday, and Father saw us there, and afterwards he pulled us aside. And of course, him just being so sweet, he was like, okay, are you guys ready now? I was like, yeah, Father, we're ready. So, okay, you'll get baptized next week then. I was like, okay, sounds good. You know, he has taught me so much just about being chill and like loving and
Yeah,
gracious and and truly letting God work and not being like thinking that you are God and that you're going to do something. It's just
right.
you do what you need to do, love people, and like Father Seraphim said, make excuses for people. Consider everybody an angel and you the worst.
Yeah,
And that's what I see in Father, and that's what I try to do. But
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was very hard for me, and his patience and love. Like, yeah, he just hi Thomas. Every now and then he'll call me Andrew, which is because my buddy Steve, he
Mhm.
we I don't know if you've had a chance to meet him, but he was there this past Sunday. He works as a park ranger in
Okay.
Lumberton, and he has to work a lot of Sundays, so he doesn't
Hmm.
get there very often. But him and his wife come, but we actually went through the classes together, and we always sat together because we would like stay after liturgy and we would sit in the parking lot. We'd talk till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just going through
Nice.
things. And so he would call me Andrew and him Thomas sometimes. He would get us like confused and we look nothing alike. But yeah, but Father Michael, he's a sweet man. It just took me a long time to get over the fact that this can't be real. Like,
Dude,
yeah.
same.
That was like what it was for me. I was like, nobody's like this. There's nobody like this.
Dude, I've never had a grown man make me feel like a child, and not
Mm,
in a bad way, like in an
right.
actual good, loving, wholesome way, you
Yeah.
know? Um, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things you got to experience it. It's
Yeah.
just it's a wild thing, man. He's a holy man. I know he wouldn't like me saying that, but I believe it.
Yeah. 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 Well, I guess we can cut it there, man. We can stop just rambling on because we'll just keep going.
So, dude,
I know we will. We're both from the same town.
absolutely, bro. All I need is a little trail and I'll catch a hold of it,
Yeah.
man.
Oh man. Yeah, as long as I have beer, I'll sit here and talk to you all day.
Heck yeah,
And
dude. Well,
my wife's gonna be like, you did nothing on your day off. I'm like, I know. Yeah, I did. I recorded a podcast
yes,
that I have to break up into three different podcasts.
dude. I appreciate it so much, bro. It's really it's humbling and it's an honor that you would even ask me to do this, and I
Yeah, for
appreciate
sure,
it,
man.
dude.
Yeah,
Truthfully,
for sure.
it's
No,
been great.
man, sitting and talking to you that one day with you and Joseph, and I was like, man, this guy's story is like so interesting. And I was like, people don't really talk about the stories behind some of these things. Everybody wants to get into the theology and this, that, but there's stories and there's life and lessons and, the muck that we went through and some of the stuff that you went through prior to finding orthodoxy was to toughen you up and strengthen you so that you could be orthodox. Maybe orthodoxy would have struck you as the truth when you were joining the Marines and it would have stopped you from joining the Marines, but maybe you didn't have the skin thick enough to deal with what orthodoxy actually was, you know?
Dude, that's and not to continue on, but that it goes back to what you said, dude. Like that trusting of like, okay, everything's for my salvation.
Yeah.
I have to believe that, and it is true. It's just like it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes,
It is. It is. That's one of
because
the
it's
hardest
like,
lessons. It's like, wait, this isn't helping me any. And you're like, yeah, it is.
yep, you'll thank me later.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. And we all go through stuff and sometimes it's hard to see it. And then you get through the other side and you're like, ah, Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So, all right, brother. Well, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can chat for a minute afterwards. All right. Well, we cut it off a little early because I forgot to have you plug your Instagram where people can get your items and shop and spend money on your stuff.
Yes, give me all the grift. No, it's Wainwright Ceramics. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Our website is wainwrightceramics.com, and it's spelled WAINWRIGHT. We're Orthodox potters, and that's the majority of everything is kind of themed around that. We have saint mugs, so if you need a patron saint mug for a baptism, we do those. We do drops that are kind of tailored to different feasts. Like we just did a made of dust collection. We're gonna do something for Pentecost, something for the Transfiguration. But if you just follow us on Instagram, you'll be up to date on everything. We are pretty good about posting at least once a day, twice a day. So come hang out. You don't have to buy a thing. Just come hang out, support through likes, shares, and yeah, we appreciate it.
Cool. All right.